When it comes to sustainability in Kiwi businesses, now is the time for action. So how are seasoned corporate sustainability leaders making progress on New Zealand's gnarliest sustainability challenges? Let's find out. I'm Jay Krangle, Head of ESG at the Sustainable Business Council.
And I'm Kule Anthony, Sustainable Value Associate Director at KPMG.
In this joint SBC and KPMG podcast series, we'll be talking with leaders in the business sustainability community in New Zealand about their efforts to shift the dial on sustainability in Aotearoa, despite challenging headwinds.
Kia ora koutou katoa, no mai haere mai. My name is Jay, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to another episode of the Sustainability Superstars podcast. And our superstar in the hot seat today is Carrie Gage. We were just having a chat about what she's been up to in past lives, and she was saying that she has been working in politics, including in James Shaw's office, and has spent the last 2 years at ASB as the head of sustainability. Welcome, Carrie. We're pleased to have you.
Kia ora, thanks for having me.
I'm going to hand over to my esteemed colleague, Kule, to ask you your first question.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jay. Great to have you here, Carrie. We are kicking off these conversations by getting people to ask how they would describe their job to a 5-year-old. So, yeah, I would love to know how you describe politics to a 5-year-old.
Well, it's a hard one. I think my kids were never interested except for the lollies that I kept in the office. And there's a really cool travelator underneath the beehive. And that was as much interest as they gave it, which is maybe a healthy attitude to politics. How I would describe this job, I actually practiced last night with my 7-year-old. He wasn't impressed at all. And I think his only takeaway was it was slightly better than school. But anything's better than school, I think, to a 7-year-old. The way I explained it to my son is that sustainability is really about working out how we can grow in a smart way. That means doing what we like to do, growing our economy, but equally growing our natural environment at the same time. And so that means we need to think about how everything works together and maybe thinking about how we do things slightly differently. And so the example, just before I lost his interest completely, was explaining how, for example, how we might do things a bit differently on farm, how we are a primary production nation, but how do we make it more efficient? How do we make sure that water's clean? How do we make sure the bills are lower for our farmers to keep on doing what they do or do new things and allow them to grow in a really sustainable way, like solar on farm, for example. And that's when he kind of left bored. But I thought it was a pretty clear explanation.
It's impressive to be able to keep a 7-year-old's attention for even a short period of time, Carrie. So well done. And a beautiful description of people, profit and planet being in balance there too. Quite interested to know, either from your time at ASB or at a national level, what would you say is your wicked sustainability challenge that you're trying to tackle?
I think it is that sustainability cuts across everything, and that makes it really hard to put in a box, classify, or sometimes even quantify. I know we've done it with emissions, and we naturally like to categorize things. I think that's what humans do, and that's how we organize and then tackle problems. And so I think that is our wicked problem. How do we coherently discuss and then tackle a problem that is so complex and within everything we do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've heard other people sort of talk about leaning on Indigenous wisdom sometimes as an approach to that, they tend to see things as interconnected much more than, and perhaps kind of in the Western modern world. What have been your kind of key lessons or ways that you've approached that in your professional life?
I think, as you said, looking at how the Indigenous worldview, and I think that's really prevalent in nature, natural capital and biodiversity. I think perhaps we're starting to get there with sustainability, and more broadly, it's more than just emissions. It's how everything is interconnected. And I think to tackle it, it's important to really listen and understand what people's motivations are, what are they worried about, and then we can work out a solution. And I'm pretty confident that the enduring solution is generally a sustainable one. That's often where I've landed with it. Yeah, that and the old adage of how to eat an elephant, and it is just a little chunk at a time, although that's obviously completely inappropriate to talk about an endangered species and eating it. You know what I mean?
I think your 7-year-old would quite like that analogy.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
anything like my little boy, obsessed
Yeah.
with large mammals and dinosaurs.
right.
So
Yeah. Yes.
You've probably seen a few evolutions, even in the couple of years you've been in ASBs, particularly in how relation the finance world sees sustainability. Carrie, interested to know more widely, how have you seen your industry evolve and how it engages with ESG?
Mm. When you say industry, do I say broadly sustainability and how we tackle it? And certainly I've seen that evolve over, the years I was in Parliament, as well as my relatively short time, 2 years at ASB, and that it's viewed more and more as a risk and an opportunity. And it's not something nice that's really great to slap on the other work you're doing or this extra thing that's happening, but actually it's inherently part of decision making, because it is a risk as well as an opportunity. That can be from how you look at infrastructure, to how you look at energy resilience, to how you make decisions, to how expensive things are going to be, to efficiency. All of that is now, that more and more people are thinking more broadly and taking into account with those business decisions from the beginning, as opposed to at the end, about sustainability.
That's great to hear that you're experiencing and seeing that. Definitely. I'm curious. I'm just going to add this on to the next question. We're gonna ask one piece of advice you'd give your younger self. But is this something that you'd always been interested in? Did you kind of always want to work in the sustainability space, or did you end up there by chance?
I think a bit of both. That's a helpful answer, isn't it? I think actually, when you think about it, it's kind of everything we do. And in that case, yes, I've always been interested how things work, how we can make things better. How can we continue to be better in all aspects, which is not just an economic or a financial way, but actually that encompasses doing things that are sustainable. Yeah. So I think probably everybody's a little bit interested in that. How do we get more efficient and grow ourselves and make sure we can grow ourselves in 50 years?
Yeah, I love that. And it definitely emphasizes the fact that every job is a sustainability job. Yeah. So if you were starting out again, would you have any advice to give your younger self?
I would say stay curious, because most of my career has obviously been pretty varied. But I think it's that curiosity. How do things work? How are things connected? Because they really are. Because despite the way we do like to organise things as a species, we can't avoid how connected things are. And I think more and more we are seeing that. So how do we tackle those problems or those challenges or those opportunities in a connected way? And that's being curious. And I think also I would tell a younger self, wear sunscreen and moisturise. But equally,
yes, Carrie.
I would say that these problems can feel really big and overwhelming, and they are. And sometimes when something's really big and overwhelming, it's hard to think, how do we deal with this? And so make little changes. Just like anything, we're not going to solve a big problem straight away. We're going to do it slowly over time. So little changes, just make those, and I think things will be good.
That sunscreen analogy brings to mind the idea of habits within sustainability too, and changing your habits can really have a massive long-term effect. So fantastic. Final question for you. Looking ahead, what's your hope for the future of sustainable business?
I hope that it just continues on the track that it's on. That more and more understanding and acknowledgement that it's actually an inherent part of your decision making in whatever business you have. The more sustainable your practice is, the more sustainable your entity, the more sustainable your decision making means you're going to be here for longer than your competitors or other entities that are not thinking long term like that.
Nice. And if you wear sunscreen, you'll also not be sunburnt too. You'll be here longer and you'll be looking younger.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I think if I were to kind of take away 3 pieces of advice from this conversation, it would be to stay curious, to be comfortable in the ambiguity, and to build up small habits. And I think that advice is very relevant to people not just working in sustainability, but every profession, or just in your personal life as well. So thank you very much for sharing your wisdom with us today, Carrie.
Sure.
We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.